I'm. Have you seen any of my videos before?
Not yet.
Okay, so all my channel basically just focuses on like the business side of independent comics and film, mainly comics, but also a little bit in the film side,
Yeah.
with the little bit that I have, and it's mostly from the perspective of a writer because that's where my expertise is. But
Uh,
so for this video, there's like two specific questions that I want to get to that are essentially like you walking through what it's like basically what happens from the producer angle of like when you option the rights to a screenplay or a book or even you option the rights to a song, I believe. But before we
yeah.
get to that, I'm just gonna like have you introduce yourself and kind of give us a run through of your career because like I knew you had produced like the Thinning franchise whenever you had reached out to me like over 5 years ago about one of my short films. So just walk my audience through who you are, what you do, and then we'll get to my questions.
Yeah, sure. Well, thank you so much for having me, and I'm excited to get to participate on the podcast.
Well,
My
thank you.
name is Michael Wormser. I've been producing for a while now. I uh, started out as an independent producer, around 2008 or 2009. At the time, Craigslist was really the platform where you could kind of find projects or get crewed up or cast. It was really just like the place to find work. And so I kind of cut my teeth by just looking for jobs as like a production manager or just kind of anywhere I could work on a production. And the first one I did was a film called Cupid's Arrow, and I got hired as the production manager, and the cast that they were going with, I felt like they could, get some name talent in there. And so I talked to the director and I talked to the investor and I started making offers. I didn't really know what I was doing,
Yeah.
but I just knew that like this is a movie, you have to have names behind it. And that was like my gut instinct. And so then all of a sudden we were able to get C. Thomas Howell attached to the project, and everyone was really ecstatic. And then I ended up being a co-producer on that film, and I kind of just from there I just never looked back and just said, "Hey, I'm a producer." And then so the next one I did was a film called Some Guy Who Kills People.
I saw
That
that.
Oh, you did? Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I knew that that was you at the time or not. That starred like a pretty well-known. Why can't I think of his name? He's in Departed and stuff.
Yes, Kevin Corrigan, who was in
Yeah,
Goodfellas,
yes. Okay,
Departed,
yeah, I
great
totally saw that
actor.
movie.
Yeah, very cool.
That's a good
Yeah,
movie. Well done. That was
oh,
your
thank you.
second
Yeah,
film?
that was my second film. Yeah. And so that was I had done the short film with the writer for he won a contest in Screamfest. It was called Tour de Fright, about bicyclists that get killed on the Tour de Fright by a bicyclist. They're haunted by a bicyclist. It's
Okay.
pretty. It was really fun. But so yeah, he had this feature that some guy kills people, and he's like, "I would love for you to take a shot at producing it." So I went ahead and arranged it, and actually attached John Landis to come on and direct, and he signed on, and then he jumped and went to another project, and we decided to keep him on and then just keep the ball rolling, and ended up getting that one made,
John
and that
Landis
was
directed that?
he executive produced it.
Oh, okay. I was like, how did I miss that? Okay.
Yeah, he initially came on to direct, and I was
Okay.
able to like put the whole thing together with him, and then he ended up getting an opportunity for another project, and so he actually stayed on as an EP, and we ended up making the movie in
Can I cut
LA.
you short and be like, so walk me through how do you go from you made one feature that you basically found on Craigslist to how do you did you just reach out or did you have any other former connections to how you kind of how do you build a film from nothing from zero just like
I
did
think
you
that
have another kind of main contact that was already like doing these kinds of things or were you did you already learn how to do this in school or
no, I had no idea what I was doing. And I think that there's an advantage to not knowing what you're doing, because once you start knowing what you're doing, you start thinking of like not like consequences or variables of what may happen, what may happen. You start getting in your head, and but when you first start out, you're like, ah, cool. I think John Landis would be great for this. And I just called his agent. And then
Okay, yeah,
he read the
simple as
script.
that.
And I was like,
Okay.
this is so crazy. Yeah. And then said, Landis is attached. And then all of a sudden all this financing came in. And it was like, this is so easy. And then and then he left. And he said, I've got this project I've always wanted to do, and now I have a chance to do it. And I'm so sorry. And I understood, but we raised a little bit of money, and so the money that we did raise, we decided to just go with that and make a pared down version of it. And it turned out to be a really great movie with a great cast, and it all worked out. But that was kind of my first foray into like attaching talent, raising financing, just kind of the indie route. And so after that project, I had my first child, and I had no other film kind of like down the line. So I needed a full-time job or some kind of way to pay the bills. And so I went on Craigslist and saw that there was a company called Maker Studios that they're looking for someone that can help with producing 30 to 50 projects a week. And I was like, wow, that sounds crazy and awesome. And so I went to this apartment and met with these guys, the Fine brothers, who were like, this is going to be $1 billion company. This is going to change the world. And you were right at the forefront. And I was like, why don't you guys just do like YouTube videos?
But
It was 2009. I didn't get it at all.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so,
But
it was
that company did
it
sell
did.
for a billion, right?
It did.
So they were right. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. But we were like in an apartment and they were pitching this like crazy thing. And I was like, right. Yeah, sounds
That's
awesome.
wild that
So
they saw that vision. What made them think that that was going to be so much of the future? Did they know that like the people they were working with? I wish we had more time to dive deeper just into Maker, but were the guys that you were working with, were they already somewhat famous in the YouTube space? Because like you say, this is 2008, 2009. Like that's so quick in the game
so
that
all
even
yes,
then, I'm not
all
sure it was you to have that kind of vision like they had is pretty profound.
it was really like a very simple idea. It was kind of like the Avengers style of like bringing all the biggest names at the time from YouTube that were in the partnership program and starting
Okay.
a multi-channel network where they would act or perform in each other's videos and kind of cross-pollinate their fan base. And then also they started a channel called The Station, which was like where everything would kind of come together, and we would all the partners would participate in content on the channel. And so through that, it started kind of blossoming into a bigger business. And so for me, I was the head of production, I would oversee content for the partner channels as well as the station, overseeing content that was made on a weekly basis for that channel. And so over the course of a few months, we really started to grow through this model like exponentially. Like we ended up moving out of this apartment, which was just like four or five of us, and then bringing on a staff of editors, bringing on more directors, bringing on more personnel to make more content. It just kept growing. It was a very simple idea that just kept flourishing, and like the more collaborative we were, the more the numbers, subscriber base, the more engagement we had on YouTube. And it was really just like an amazing experience. And the whole time I was there, I was like, all I want to do is make movies. Why am I doing this with my life? I'm so miserable. And so
Oh,
I didn't see the vision. And I just, I started, on this trajectory of like films, and to go into like making YouTube videos was, not, it was a course correction for me. And I wasn't very happy with that decision, but it was just like, life is life, and you have to work and you have to pay the bills. And so, kind of just went with it. But then I saw there was a potential with, with what a lot of the content creators were doing, where they were doing parody music videos and then releasing the parody song on iTunes, and they would sell that song and they would make a lot of money,
okay.
just
Yeah,
selling that
yeah.
song
I
directly.
remember
And I
that.
was
That trend never really went away, but at that time, that was huge.
Yeah, it was huge. And I was like, wait a minute. I was like, what if he did this with an independent film? like if you put all these people together and then sold it directly to, on a platform like, an iTunes like platform, and just kind of the same model. And I was like,
Yeah.
this could be great. And so there were a few other people at Makers that kind of had the same idea of like making a film. And so Michael Gallagher, who started Totally Sketch, was a co-founder of Maker Studios. He had a channel where Totally Sketch, where he worked as a writer director and did everything kind of behind the camera. And really, his goal was to be a feature film director. And another guy named Glasgow, who was a writer at one point on South Park and was a creative partner at Maker, had written a script called "I Did It for the Lulz," and so it all kind of like coincided. Like I wanted to do this, they wanted to do this, and we started talking about it, and before we knew it, we had Smiley, and so we took it to Maker and we said, we'd love to make this as a feature film, and then I suddenly became like the head of the motion picture department, and we were trying to make a movie, and ultimately it just didn't work out. Like it wasn't the right fit for the talent at Maker. And so we got their blessing and we went out and made it on our own. And so I left Maker to do that in around 2010. And I made Smiley with Michael Gallagher, who wrote and directed it, and put up all the funding to make it through the success
I
it's
remember
had.
like seeing that on YouTube whenever it came out back in the day, and I remember like that iconic thumbnail of that smiley face.
Oh yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
it was
whole
great. I was like, that another at that time that was like where people were just like, that was a big deal to be. I don't know. It's so crazy to me that doesn't feel that long ago, but at this point, it kind of was like that was the beginning of an era that is
yes,
almost, it feels like an old world now, to where
yes.
YouTube was such a big deal and movies hadn't really been, especially like horror films done with the YouTube stars, had never been done before really at that time. Ha-
No, and it was kind of right because a lot of the talent at the time, they really wanted to be movie stars. They didn't have the opportunity in Hollywood that, they came out and didn't have much opportunity. So they created an opportunity for themselves on YouTube. And,
yeah.
through that, they built massive audiences. But at the end of the day, a lot of them wanted to be, actors. And so it kind of was really like great for scripted content. And so we made Smiley and it had a big splash. We partnered with AMC theaters and released it directly with AMC. And overnight, I realized like, oh my goodness, I'm also a distributor because we just partnered with an exhibitor. And so, kind of long story short, that model really started to grow. From 2010 to I would say 2018 or so, where studios started building digital divisions and scripted content starring influencers became like a really big business. And YouTube did the partnership program for like 100 channels where they give $1 million to 100 channels to kind of incubate it. And Awesomeness TV was one of those channels. Black
Yeah.
Box TV was one of those channels. And so I got hired on the Black Box TV after as a producer when they had that round of funding to then go and make content for the channel, which was a lot of fun. It kind of changed the business because it sort of elevated what I was doing at Maker, which was a really low scale production of just a shooter, sound person, and then a PA that would film behind the scenes and handle crafty and kind of be the production on set. And so we kind of had a bigger budget where we would do, like we'd have a DP, a grip, gaffer, one person that would do art and costumes, and then we'd maybe bring on like a special effects supervisor or someone to do special effects makeup, or and that was really kind of our model. And I'd find locations, would find talent. We worked with a lot of really great up and coming filmmakers that it kind of was a good platform for them to just make a really cool, horror short. And so, from there, working with Tony, I ended up doing the feature film, The Axe Murders of Villisca. And
I saw that
so,
one too on Netflix back in the day.
oh, there you go. so,
I used
so
to watch
I,
movies all the time, and now not so much.
yeah. So that was another film that I did right after Smiley. And then I formed a company with Michael Gallagher and my partner Jana Gallagher, called Cineman, and it really became a great opportunity to do more, to work with a lot of digital studios, and that's how The Thinning came about, which is something Michael wrote and directed, and then we did the sequel directly afterwards, um, and so and beyond that, I started working. I did a few projects at Crypt TV. I did Sunny Family Cult season 3, and we did a horror anthology called Don't Watch This, which was a partnership with Netflix. And then after that, I kind of just I feel like I kind of just, that whole run sort of ended, or for me at least, kind of got to the end of the road of like doing a lot of like content with digital stars or influencers and that whole game. And I think a lot of what's happened is that that time period sort of evolved now to where influencers really just want to be influencers. They want to, beyond being influencers, the creator economy kind of launched, where products started coming into play, and it became more about that than actually wanting to be a movie star.
Yeah,
And
that's what I was gonna
so,
get at. I was like, I don't think it's like that anymore because now you see people where they just want to be what it's a whole new thing now. It's like I'm an
yeah,
influencer, and they don't even care about making movies or starring in movies. Whereas at the beginning, it was like YouTube was just a footstool to into Hollywood. Now it's like, no, we're our own thing.
yeah, exactly. And at the end of the day, like even though I got caught up in that world, my real um, vision, or my real career goal, was to be a filmmaker and not caught up in the influencer, world.
So
So
uh, I
yeah, I
guess,
transitioned back.
yeah, yeah. Not to cut you off, but walk me through what is your world now as a almost like what you as a traditional film and TV show producer. Like I know your most recent, you have a TV series, right? The comedy series that's out
Yeah, it's a
now.
workplace comedy that's on YouTube called PBC.
So walk
And
me through
then,
the steps of like what do you do behind the scenes to from I guess like for me, for like the writer's perspective, like who writes the series, or if you were to option, let's say you were to option one of my comic books and turn it
yeah,
into a show, like what do you do behind the scenes after we sign that contract and you go out and try to shop it around, as they say?
yeah, no. So if I were to, review one of your comics and say, oh my God, like, this is great. I think off the bat, to option something, I'd have to have kind of like a vision of like where I could take it to, or like how I could see it being made, or like, and so I would come back to you and be like, hey, I think this could be a great thing for this streamer or this theater or this whatever, like I think there's a roadmap to getting this made. Do you want to partner with me and see if we can get it set up and going? And to be honest with you, 9 times out of 10, that initial plan usually like falls through. Like
Of
take it to like
course, yeah.
Amazon, they're like, oh, we have 3 things that are like this already. So now you're like, damn it. And they're like, but it's great. So then you kind of out in the sea with the option. You have to figure out where to take it to. And so um, there's a couple different approaches when you're kind of out in the sea. It's like one is creating value, so building up the team, maybe attaching a director, attaching talent, putting together a sizzle reel, or making a short film, or any kind of creative elements that can help sell the package and get it in
What
the door of places. And so that's then my kind of next focus of like really building that value.
what can the writer do to help strengthen that process? Like for example, if I could prove I have an audience or something like that, like with the comics, to where it's like I sold, 10,000 people bought this or regularly read this, or I have, 1,000 YouTube watchers. And like, is there a way to where the writers can sort of help influence the process to where it's not just like we send it off and then we wait?
But yeah, I mean, a lot of buyers these days are really hungry for IP. So if there's existing IP that has value, then that actually adds to the ingredients of like when they decide of like what they want to green light and what they decide not to green light. So having numbers or having past success with that IP adds a lot of value. I also think attaching someone that, like a director or a producer that makes, these type of projects on a much bigger scale, that says, hey, I believe in this project too, that can go a long way as well, in terms of like adding in a value so that they can't say no to making it. And I think that's really the goal that I try to get to, is like where it's like undeniable, like, that you have to get this made because there's so much like to it. There's so much value to it that you can't say no. And that's really what I try to get to, is like to a point where you can't say no. And so like, from a practical standpoint, like having a budget, a schedule, and really practically speaking, like how I would like create the blueprint for getting it made, but then also like from a market standpoint, having talent that's involved that really elevate the value of it. So it you're kind of hitting on all cylinders when you go out to the marketplace. And it's tricky sometimes. You could have a great package, and you to the point where no one could say no, but they still say no because it's, the marketplace maybe like wouldn't, maybe the budget's too high and it's the value of the project is too low, or there's too many things like it in the marketplace. There's so many variables. So you know there's no way to really go from A to B. Obviously it's a journey, and you kind
Yeah.
of grow and see what works. And I think part of it too is trying to get it out to as many people as possible to get their feedback, and kind of calibrate as you get responses from buyers, or calibrate as you get responses from agents, and kind of learn as you go. And I think what's tough is, a lot of writers get super excited. They're like, oh, yes, and deservedly so, because it's a really big deal when you get an option. But
Yeah.
it's like, all right, I got an option. Now I've got to climb Mount Everest to get it made.
Yeah,
And I
exactly.
think that's really something that is challenging for producers, like, because then the writer's like, what's going on? Are we doing this? Is it, we're all set. Are we great? And you're like, no, well, these people said no. These people are kind of, waiting to get back to me. And so it just, takes more time than um, you expect. Like off the bat, you do a 6 month option, but it might take 2 years, it might take 5 years to get it made, or it may take 6 months. It depends.
Yeah.
And so I try and be as transparent as possible with writers, and say, like, hey, we're in this together. This is my plan. I don't, this is my vision for it. Let's see how far this takes us. And then, I try to communicate along the way of like, you know, um, how it's coming along. And then usually like I share a list of like the people I've taken it to, and just, work as from a collaborative standpoint, and say, how else can we get this story told? Like, what's the best way to get the story told? And, sometimes it's really helpful when a writer stays on board to that process with like, building out a lookbook, or building out cast list, or just sharing the vision they have for the story, getting it out of their head, so that, like we have a very aligned perspective. Or or if we want to bring on a director, like, put together a director list, really just trying to
So it's
have
almost
a
like you're just step
cohesive
by step
approach.
reaching out to, like, I'm gonna reach out to the actors that I want, or the directors that might be involved, and kind of just like shop it around to the people that might be involved in the project. And then once you maybe have like one or two that say yes to that, then send, like you said, like kind of like a pitch or a sizzle to the market, or like the actual production companies, or I guess the investors. Is that kind of sort of the process?
Yeah, so usually it's sales agents, or distributors, or investors,
So, oh
or
yeah, that's what I was gonna. Is like, is that, or is that more of what's first? Like, do you more sort of try to, I guess, like think about like how do you ensure that are gonna profit after a film? Like, let's just take like the Axe Murders of Valiska. Like, when you finally had that film like in production, did you already know how you were gonna make money off of it, even if it like Because you did that go
Well,
straight to Netflix or
there's two ways you can go. There's where you can pre-sell, where you can you know, sell off the, rights to the US, sell off the rights to foreign, and um and so you get guarantees in place where you can lend against those guarantees, but
yeah,
there's really not much of an upside. And so the alternative to that is if you have an equity investor who says, let's make this and then sell it across the world, then there's obviously a lot more upside. So it's really tough to find those investors that'll just commit 100% to a project. So usually it's kind of pieced together with tax credits, some pre-sales, some equity, some debt. And so it's kind of a combination of sorts, but at the end of the day, you have to, as a producer, really try to build that value, figure out how to build the value. And when I say value, it's like the team involved, the strength of the script, the
star power or
star power, your track record, all those things are like a variable to see if, and you're competing against other projects are also looking at to put their focus on.
yeah.
So if yours holds up against that, so I think my advice to writers or to filmmakers in general is really, I think there's a lot of value in building a team. Like going at it this alone is challenging, but if you have a really good team involved, like maybe you have a producing partner or the writer and producer come together and try to like just get it going, it's like it's someone to bounce off of, and I think there's a lot of value in that. And then attaching directors, attaching talent, I think that is for a director, it's can I get behind their vision, and are they going to help me get to the next step, which is finish getting it financed or getting it made. And so I try to really like spend time trying to find the right filmmakers to get involved. And
Yeah.
Because sometimes I say that because sometimes like filmmakers will attach a director or attach talent, but they don't have enough market value to get it made, and they're kind of stuck with the people they've attached. So you have to really be careful with making sure that you have the right talent that can help get the movie made. And
Yeah.
that's just the indie film world. I mean, obviously, like the best way to go, not the best way to go, but another way to go would be the single source financing, which is you pitch it to a studio or a streamer, and they will
Just
give
take it
you,
on all like everything all at once in one fell swoop.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Dang it. I think I'm at about my time. I wish we had more. Definitely we could be that writer producer duo.
Yeah,
We
listen,
could
I
go out
love your
there and like
stuff.
I got all kinds of projects and I know you do too. So please tell me, where can people find you? What projects do you have live on TV or in anything coming to theater? Whatever you got, where should I send people to?
Yeah, so you can go to my Instagram and at Michael Lee Wormser. The show I'm doing now, we finished season 1 and season 2, and then we're starting season 3 next year. And you can find that on YouTube. The series is called PBC. Really funny show. And yeah, I've got some films cooking for next year, and always looking to meet with writers and help any way I can.
Perfect. Yeah, if you have any links that I can put in the YouTube description and stuff, send me those. Otherwise, I'll
Okay.
catch you later. We're definitely doing a part 2 to where I can dive deeper into some of these topics because I feel like we just touched the surface on every single thing I've asked, and there's like there's way more that down the pipeline of this rabbit hole of producing that I really want to learn because I kind of dabble in both writing and producing. Um, and it's just like every time I just get like sidelined and like, oh man, I didn't realize I had to do all this. Like, you know, it's just like there's so much to it that it's just like you do not realize when you dive into this game just how big and kind of massive it really is, but also how simple it really is too. Like it's just straightforward. It's just reaching out to people. But like I said, I'm at my
That's
time.
most of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll put it in the links. Thanks a lot, Michael, for all your time. And we're definitely gonna do a part 2, and I'll reach out and send me those links.
Awesome, Max. Take care, man.
Thanks. See ya.
Bye.